Okay.
Hello.
Hey, Simo.
Hey,
Uh,
how are you?
Excellent as always.
I bet.
I'm ready. Actually, I wanted to tell you. Not sure if you knew, but when I was in at Measure Camp Helsinki last weekend, I was in charge of the session board, and it
Mm.
was me and Hanu. And I was obviously gonna do a session with Matt Gershoff, which took a long time. We had like a 1 hour session, like those poor people in the room that were
Mm.
Mari was one of them. Mari almost lasted the whole hour with us, with me and Matt. But I want to say there was like 20 people, and if you hear this and you were one of those people, I have no words. But there were like 20 people gathered around me, vicious, ready to put their session board, ready for sharing knowledge. It was like this whole intensity. Hanu, I thought Hanu, because he's a big dude, he will be able to help me keep these people in check.
Mm.
But no, Hanu just moved around. He was behind me, and then it was 10:40. So he puts his session that he had. He had the session card, and then everybody, Steen Rasmussen,
He's a
Alex
beast.
Beast pushed. So at some
Yeah.
point, I got pushed down, and I fell under all these people, and I got so angry. I was like, "Who pushed me? Who
Yeah.
pushed me?" I managed to put my session card. I was next to Carolina from Google. She was also stampede, just like me. We were
Mm.
both trying to like talk, like, what is this? What is going on? I've never seen anything like this before. Um, and
It was weird because the session board wasn't full. Like in the end of the day, there were still spaces. Like, what's the hurry?
I don't know what the
Kind of
fuck
weird.
happened. This was the first time at the measure camp where people were
Yeah.
like, genuinely. So I was so traumatized because I've been so like I went and I sat there for like 1 hour and a half. I stayed downstairs because I needed to regroup. But whoever is that person that pushed me, one day I will find you. I
Yeah,
will
that
find you.
wasn't nice, but it was kind of ironic because I think that they actually delayed opening the session board to prevent the stampede.
Yes. But
Yeah,
people were already there, like they were not at the opening board. So there was at
yeah,
least 20 people. I know who you are. I know who you
yeah.
are.
But it is a yeah. Now that you mention it, it is kind of a bottleneck. In literally and figuratively, the whole session board idea. Like, it's nice, but the initial rush
It's
is
crazy.
just disorienting. I think something needs to be redesigned about that because it also favors those who have sharp elbows and who have more moxie than the others.
And just like
So all the kind of silent people or people who are intimidated by crowds, they just don't have a chance. So it's
yeah,
it's definitely yeah, it's definitely. And I'm gonna raise my hand right away and say that I'm always gonna try to be the one who's first at the board to slap my session on,
the people know
and that's on
that.
me. But yeah, but that's on me. And but I do think that the system needs to be improved. I
Yeah,
don't
I
think
don't
that
know.
it's useful, and I think it does leave a sour taste, especially to those who are stampeded.
I was shocked. I was like, what type of shit
Yeah.
is this? We're all nerds. Like, it's not like we're getting.
Yeah.
It
It
was
needs
given.
to have like mosh pit rules that if somebody's bowled over, they are immediately everything stops and they're lifted up.
No, nobody
Yeah, you need mosh pit rules.
And I was so anyway, it's fine. And I wasn't even fighting for a good spot. I was at 2 p.m. Like I was trying to
Yeah.
let people put their sessions, do their thing. Anyway, it's fine. I mean, it's all good, man. It's all good. We're back. It's fine. It was an excellent event. The food was amazing. People were amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah, it
liked
was fun.
it. It was really good. It's my favorite. For sure, it's continuing to be my favorite measure camp. Now, today we're having a guest, but before I wanted to talk to you about something. So as you know, I started this partnership with Stape, right? Because one thing that they're trying to do is to reach more to the enterprise market. And I remember I was with Dennis. Remember when we were all at Hamburg at the Analytics Summit and we were all three in the airport? But then
Mm.
you had to leave because your flight was before us. And then
Mm.
so me and Dennis hung out for like 2 3 hours. And we were talking about server side and enterprise. And I'm not a server side person. I don't tickle with tags and stuff. And I said to him, listen, like, I think what you guys have is great, but nobody from the marketing world understands when you're talking about server side tracking, about cookie. I mean, they should, for sure, but they don't make the difference for them. The only thing they made remember is that somebody showed them a pitch deck and they said you will get this ROI back from your conversion. So you're gonna, my favorite, circumvent privacy regulations by using server side. So I said to him, like, if I was Stape, I would write more enterprise content that explains server side tracking, but from a business benefit approach. And then we actually started like talking about doing some content together, but we went back and forth for like almost a year because I was afraid to go in this space because I'm not a server side person and I don't want to appear like I'm being, what's the word, disingenuous or inauthentic.
Yeah.
But in the end, we discussed like I helped them identify like 10 to 12 issues that I think will be answered by a server side tracking. But I proposed to them that I want to write it from a business perspective. They can have their thoughts in it from a server side tracking, whatever. And one of the first things that I wrote and I'm going to publish next week, it's about new versus existing customers definition, which is such a big problem in the industry.
Mm.
So what I'm saying is, let's say you're a company and you're running remarketing campaigns or retargeting campaigns, but you're constantly targeting people that are already your customers. The first instinct that the company has is to blame the analytics team. Why is my tracking broken? Why am I not getting the right
Mm.
signals? Oh, it must be a floodlight. Oh, it must be something with the fact that we have client side or our server side is not working. So what I was trying to explain in this article, and I really want to know your thought maybe from a client side versus server side perspective, but what I'm trying to write in this article is that the definition, it's always the default is always going to be somebody else's definition. So it's a business problem first. Then analytics people need to be able to transform that business problem into what should it be from a tracking perspective, and then the tracking implementation should implement it. Like most of the time right now, I think the fact that we use different analytics tools and we get a number next to new existing customers, it doesn't make us think any deeper to what new is for our
Mm.
brand, for our company. And what I was thinking is, and then I'll shut up. I was thinking that new customer, I'm thinking mostly about retail right now. So not new user, new customer is at least four things. It is somebody that's new to the brand. Is it somebody that's new to the category? Is it new to the channel? Is it new to the purchase relationship? Because I, for instance, am a Nike's fan for years, but I don't buy from the website. I never bought in my life from the website because it's expensive. I will buy from Amazon. I will
Mm.
buy from third parties. That doesn't mean I don't love the brand. It means I'm cheap. It means I have a different intent. So how do you track that? Is it really a server side, client side problem, or is it a business problem? What do you think?
It's 100% a business problem. It has nothing to do with, like, you're using term, like you said it. It's new customer versus returning customer. That's a very different problem to solve than new user or new visitor.
Yeah.
Like visitors and users are web analytics terminology, and they have to do with cookies, and they have to do with even those are abstractions. Like you can, it's kind of foolish to claim that somebody's a new visitor to your website because all they could have done is just flush their cookies and they've been there a million times before. And there's just no practical way of solving that. I mean, you could use device fingerprints or first party logging information, but you're still going to lose a lot of stuff. So that kind of boils down back to you can have the same just mindless, endless, bottomless debate about any named label in any web analytics tool, whether it's new users, old users, whether it's sessions, whether it's bounces, whether it's engagement. It can all have this. So a tool just needs to make a definition and choose their labels carefully. I've kind of always been against this new visitor, returning visitor terminology. Even though it makes a lot of sense, it's still misguiding because it's factually not that. Like you're not a returning. Well, returning visitor, sure, if you have the same cookie, you're a returning visitor, but that doesn't mean you're the same person who's visiting if you're using a shared computer or whatever. You might have a very different intent. But new customer, old customer, I think because it's a business question, it just gets even more complicated because there's layers and layers to it. Like you said, are you somebody who's been familiar with the brand before? If you've been exposed to their bus stop ads, which would be impossible to track without a qualitative component, like have you seen this brand before and where did you first encounter it, which people never answer truthfully, which is another problem. So I think it just boils down to this kind of ontological problem where you just have to, at some point, because you're going to drive yourself crazy if you try to get to the bottom of all the nuances. You just have to decide on what the level of
What is
abstraction
it?
is, and just stick with that and document that, so that the business understands that when we talk about new customers, we are specifically talking, you know, when was the customer with this email address first introduced in our CRM? Let's call that the cutoff point. They could have been interacting with our brand before if they made a purchase using cash, or something like that. If they don't have a user account, if they don't have a participant in the loyalty program, but we accept that it's an incomplete metric or a definition, but we've decided to use it just to avoid. But it just needs documentation. Like, it's so important. Like labeling and just, yeah. That's my
The,
2 cents to
the,
begin with.
no, yeah, and the reason why I started, like, I chose this to be the first topic is because in the last 12 months, brands that I work with came to me, and this is brands that have been
Mm,
doing a lot of stuff. And they basically came and said, "Why we think this is how it starts normally. We think that we might be targeting through paid social or through I don't know, with shopping ads. We're retargeting existing customers that would buy anyway."
mm,
And then you can tell that if you look into the tracking and you see that the acquisition, numbers are quite high, but it doesn't match the LTV, that is flat. Like, there's ways
yeah.
to identify this. And then, of course, a lot of people might say, and I had this contradiction, so maybe let me have it with you too. I had this contradiction a bit with the user ID. Sure, you can have a user ID. A lot of companies have user
Mm,
IDs. It's debatable about how that user ID is implemented. But for instance, let's say you're using, because I was looking at Amplitude, right? So Amplitude
mm,
uses a device ID, a user ID, right? And it reconciles these two to define a customer.
mm,
However, if you think about it, this is very isolated perspective because this is how event tracking works. You combine a device with a given user ID, and then you say, okay, this is a new customer. But the problem is that, let's say, to understand that a user without a user ID, how is that being set? It's a very big problem because it might seem that, let's say, they flashed the cookies, as you said,
mm,
they deleted, the history data. You're on Safari, and then you come to the website that is using Amplitude, then you don't have the user ID, or you don't have this identification. So then it's being tracked as a new person all the
yep.
time, and it doesn't matter what analytics tool you use. It can be GA or Adobe.
Mm,
I mean, actually, Adobe had this cool new versus existing customer thing at some point. I think somebody sent me this article because I did a bit of research. But even so, you cannot control what happens on a browser level. Like, you
mm,
just cannot control. And this is kind of like where everything boils down to. So, like, what I was thinking is you need to define kind of like what is the minimum threshold that somebody is considered new. And it's kind of like, it's not one thing. It should be something like a mix of channel, a mix of maybe device, a mix of different things that you want to look at that flavor, like, are ingredients to that type of new definition. And it's a huge problem. And it's crazy that we're still talking about this after so after so long.
mm.
But it's always a business problem. It's always like you need to sit down with different departments and see what everybody, because the thing is, a new customer for the CRM is very different than a new customer for the performance team. So
No, no,
it's so
that's
complicated.
just what I mean. That it is still a problem because there is no hard and fast solution to it. Like, there isn't. It's a debate. It should be a debate, as you said. It's something that you need to discuss in the business. But analytics tools have their own definitions, and those aren't up for discussion. Like, you can't tell
Yeah,
GA4 like how to do that. Like, Universal Analytics used to have the campaign timeout, and then you have user retention settings, of course, which let you kind of reset those identifiers. But even so, like, it just doesn't. But many tools like GA, for example, already, and I'm sure all the other big ones as well, they already model against, for example, they can detect if the user, or they can try to detect if the user came from Safari, for example, and then they know that there's most likely a 7-day cookie timeout
yeah,
expiration cap. So then they know that if the traffic is from Safari, it will most likely inflate new user metrics um, if they are under 7 days old, because they know that it could be just due to how JavaScript cookies are handled in Safari. So there are ways to kind of improve the fluctuation that happens in the long tail, which is for users of Safari who only visit the site every 8 days, for example. So you can bake that into your models, but you still need to call a spade a spade. Like, you still need to
Yes.
stop talking about new customers in an analytics tool, because a customer implies that they have a business relationship with your company, which they don't if they're just visiting your website. You can turn them into customers by uploading your order IDs and
Frictionless,
using
yeah.
a user ID if they log into their customer account, but don't call somebody a customer who's never bought anything and who's just browsing your site. I think that's a huge misnomer. They're not really visitors. they're not really, like, what are the, like, this is getting to a semantical problem, because they aren't really, like, a user is a weird word as well. A visitor might be a good one, but what if they're not just visiting? What if they're actually buying as well? And it just,
Exactly.
yeah, it's
It's so complicated. Like, I ended up
mm,
writing 14 pages. I don't know how I'm gonna stick this into my new, because it's a lot.
yeah.
I'm breaking it down. Like, I have my own style, but I have one last question. So from a server side perspective, what I wrote, and I need to check this with, so I am not a server side expert. Just want to make sure that I say this out loud for people in the back. But the way I was thinking is, if you come on the other side, so this is my business thinking. If you come on the other side with a business definition for what new means for your business, then if you are going to go into server side, you must have the look back window, the identity unit, because this is important. People forget it's an identity unit. Most
Mm,
ads, like for instance on Instagram, um, if me and my husband talk in the house, because we're using the same Wi-Fi, if me and my husband talk about cookies and donuts and whatever, either one of us will be serve those advertising if we're using it's I actually looked into the way Meta thinks about this, and they're using the household as an identity for a
mm,
couple, for a family. So this is something also that you need to bake in into the definition, because what is the identity unit? Is it a singular person? Is it a family?
mm,
Is it a relationship? Is it a couple? I've never heard nobody talk about that, which is crazy. I didn't know about it until I actually started writing this article, and I went into settings into Meta, because actually Meta, for what it's worth, is pretty open about how they're
mm,
fucking us over in terms of tracking. Like, I was quite impressed with the fact that they're so open. Obviously, after I turned off everything, I resetted my advertising ID. But anyway, let's say you have all this stuff and you're on the other side. um, I was thinking that you need to have a purchase event that knows who the buyer is. Then you must have audience suppressions that stays current, cross-device identity, and clear signal to the platform, right? Because the ad platforms are running these models to find people, right? Like your new customer, best new customers. So if you want to make sure that when you're running these retargeting campaigns, you're feeding good signals back to the
mm.
platform. So that's not something you can do with client side implementation. That's my understanding, but maybe that's why I want to say.
Well, I don't know what the difference is with client side. Why wouldn't and in fact, client side tracking lets you use third-party cookies, which can be more robust for those signals, because they can
Okay,
get accurate view throughs as well. For example, like Facebook, like if you're using a browser that supports third-party cookies, and you're not using a click ID, the user didn't click an ad, you can actually get information that you couldn't get through server side unless you have the hashed email address. So
okay,
there are some things that client side can do that server side can't, and server side has to use first party data to replace that
yeah,
capability. But server side, and similarly, you can enrich client side information with data from your CRM. You probably shouldn't, because it's a
I wrote,
complicated
I wrote
task
that.
for the, yeah, it's complicated for the developers. They're like, I don't see why you like, there's no privacy or security issue here. Like, if you have the legal basis to collect that information, you can expose it client side. And in fact, from an auditability point of view, it's better
Yeah,
that you show out in the open that, hey, by the way, we are hashing your email address and collecting your Facebook, rather than doing it behind the veil of the server, like super sneakily, because you're definitely not going to add that to your privacy policy, even though it's a good idea to do so. So server side does give you opportunity to enrich at scale, and kind of do things maybe a bit more agilely. But I don't think that it's the silver bullet. One thing that server side does give you, which is again doable client side, but it's more complicated. But you can build your own identity graph. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can have a transactional database or a relational table server side in Firestore or wherever if you're using Google Cloud that basically does reverse mapping that you have all these device IDs, and when you flush cookies, they're removed, and you're browsing the site through all these different devices like mobile and two different computers and so on. If at any time you log in with one of those, you can update your identity graph that, hey, this CRM ID, this use email address is associated with this new device ID. So
Mm-hmm.
then whenever you again go back to your mobile phone, but you don't log in, it will check that, okay, this device ID is familiar, let's associate it with this email address. So you can do that really easily. And you, like I said, you could do it client side, but it would be just the cost of additional browser requests, which you really want to minimize in
Yeah.
this day and age. So server side does give you, it gives you scale, it gives you more computational capabilities, it gives you the opportunity to obfuscate and to work like cloak and dagger style,
But it's not a
and it
silver
gives you,
bullet.
yeah, but it gives you more opportunities for fingerprinting. But having said all that, like I don't it's one of those kind of, I think it's one of those hype things about server side that it somehow solves these problems, but it really doesn't solve anything about identity. You're still struggling with the same problem of, users disclosing who they are, and because they don't necessarily, unless you want to prompt every single user who visits with like 20 different questions, like were you here yesterday at 9 a.m. Did you use a Chrome device?
What's your
You're
mother's
always just going to be
favorite?
looking at signals. You're always going to be looking at IP addresses. You're always going to be looking at fingerprints. You're always going to be looking at device IDs. If they log in and they give you permission, you'll have a very strong identifier. So you're always going to be, so server side doesn't necessarily solve anything in that, but it does give you scale, which is something you don't want to burden the client side with, and you don't want to use, you don't want to have a user expend their device battery and bandwidth just to satisfy your incapability of building a stable identity graph. That's why you move those things server side.
Yeah,
That's my 2 cents. I mean, there are flavors to this.
of
There are
course.
many flavors to this. But really, in this day and age, with lack of third-party cookies and a degradation of first-party storage and client-side unreliability, it always kind of boils down to, unfortunately, like first-party data is without a doubt like the key to the kingdom. Like that's what the platforms want, that's what the vendors want. And there are, you can put your tinfoil hat on and say that they're going to be misusing that information, but there are ways to do it smoothly. And I think Facebook and Google in particular are quite forthcoming these days, that they are being
Yes,
quite
I was
transparent
shocked with
about it.
that. I was
Like
shocked with that.
yeah, it's like all the other ones, all the smaller competitors who are being super sneaky about it and scraping everything. But I think that, I mean, Facebook and Google aren't perfect. Like they have a track record of this automatic matching stuff, which they enable and scrape emails and stuff like that.
I
But they
was
have like, yeah, like Google has trusted execution environments. Like they're not perfect again, but they are clean rooms. Like they do remove those connections, and they do their best because they know that there's always going to be like a 50 million court cases brought down upon them if anybody even whiffs at
And on
misuse.
Instagram, they even show you what the companies you're in the audience list for. Like,
Yeah,
what is the ad that they showed you? Like, I found that quite cool when I did research. Anyway, I mean,
yeah.
everybody's gonna get. I'm sending this.
And
You
it's a
probably
very good. I'm looking forward to the article. This is a really interesting.
very long, and I look
Yeah,
at it in very different ways. I'm looking at channel,
yeah,
at marketplace versus direct. Like, I'm. You
yeah,
know me. I will go in. But this is good caveats. I'm glad that I didn't say wrong things, so that's good. um, of course, you might find some things you don't agree with, but it's okay. That's what is good to have this. It's a conversation. It's not. I
yeah,
don't have the impression that I know, but I know from a business perspective, or not from a tracking perspective. Anyway, before we get our guest, this podcast is sponsored by Simar, very
yes,
proudly sponsored by Simar.
yes,
So
yeah.
I'll
Don't yeah. Check
Simar
out
Navigate.
teamsimmer.com for our online courses, and use the code DEVIATE. That's DEVIATE for a 10% discount on any individual course. We just came out of a JavaScript for digital marketers campaign, but we're probably going to have a bunch of new campaigns coming up. While we are designing our next courses and our next content. So also subscribe to our newsletter at teamsimmer.com/newsletter
Yes, it's very
to
good.
be to be on the cutting edge. Cool.
Yes. Cool. Well, thank you, and let's get our guest. Okay,
Oh,
we're back. Woo! Woo! Woo!
this is not a retry. This is how we actually started. Hey,
Okay,
Talia,
great.
welcome back. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be back. I love you guys.
Yeah, I
You
have
are
a
the first person to return.
yeah.
What?
We don't
Is
do.
that so? Oh,
Yeah,
that's really cool.
yeah. We
I
don't
should
do
know this.
repeats.
Yeah,
We don't
yeah.
do repeats like that. But
Of
only
course,
for
except
you.
for the very, very special people like Talia and no one else.
Exactly.
I have
Exactly.
to say, like, can I just tell you what the maximal epitome of laziness is? So Claude is having problems. Like, there's some downtime with
Yes.
Sonnet model, and I have Claude code running, and I'm trying to get it to update one single line in a README file, which I could type myself, but I refuse to do it. So I'm prompting over and over again. I've been doing this for 45 minutes now, waiting for it to update. I could just open the file, but I refuse to do it. I'm so lazy. I've delegated everything to Claude now, which is very sad.
Did you
I've
see my
completely
post
sold my
about that?
principles.
I literally posted about that sometimes I'll spend like 2 hours trying to do something in
Yeah.
AI and it always feels like it's almost there.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I'll just step away for 5 minutes, draw it on the whiteboard, and I'm done.
It's incredible. Like,
It's insane.
all the talk about how we save time and save energy and delegate all of the excess work, like the mundane banal tasks AI. And here nobody, like, who was under the illusion that ever happens, because we're going to delegate more and more and more and more, and we're going to end up as just like empty husks with no
Yep.
autonomy anymore.
Yeah, I
It's
admit
crazy.
also I was on the cloud status because I was trying to ask for a new title for something because I'm lazy as fuck.
Exactly. Like, we could brainstorm the title right now if you want, but no, you have to ask the AI.
No, no, no.
It's crazy, the world we're living in. Like, I've never been so torn about a technology, because I can see the amazing benefits, and I use it religiously for so many things that were beyond my reach, just
Yeah.
time-wise and resource-wise. And at the same time, I can see myself losing bits and pieces of me that I did not want to give up on.
You know, it's kind of like when we got our mobile phones and I used to know everyone's phone number, but now I
Yeah.
don't because it's just in people's phones. And I find that like AI helps me so much when I'm trying, especially with design, because I am so bad at designing. I have no idea how to like sketch anything. So that really helps me if I'm like, okay, do this thing, like show this thing for me or visualize it for me. That's amazing. But when I try and do anything to do with like copy or like, as you said, like descriptions and writing stuff, I just spend so much more time on it and I end up rewriting it anyway. So it's just like we have to stop outsourcing our thinking to AI because everyone, it's the same thinking. So now everyone
is.
sounds the same and thinks the same. I can tell when people are writing, like you can really, really tell the
Oh, yeah.
posts, the comments, the
Yep.
articles, everything. It's like everyone suddenly has the same tone and voice. It's really weird.
It is. It's disconcerting, but it does give opportunity. Like, we talked about this with Juliana at length before, but I'm like, I kind of see a near future where there's going to be a label like, this was generated by a human, this was created by a human or authentic human created, like, as a label of authenticity that
That would be
you can
nice.
attach to your content and sell it. Like, this was absolutely no way out. You already see it in Hollywood, and you see it in music creation, that people add these disclaimers that no
Watermarking,
AI
yeah.
was used. Yeah, kind of watermarking, but
Yeah.
like as a symbol of trust and a symbol of like, this is authentic,
I
critical
would love
thinking,
that for
derived
my
content.
newsletter, to be honest. I would love that.
Yeah.
So like on e-commerce sites, you'll now have the like credit card logo.
Yeah.
And the little lock for
Yeah.
SSL next to it, and a dash on like an AI. That's great.
Yeah. I don't know.
No one's gonna
Yeah.
abuse that at all.
Yeah.
I would like it, actually. That would be nice. That would be a useful badge, not like the stupid shit on LinkedIn.
Mm.
Which,
But
by the way, I
Use
heard they're
AI
going
for
into
marketing.
monetization. I heard that LinkedIn is gonna go into monetization for creators. Finally,
really?
after all these fucking years I've been wasting on that platform.
I think it's just because we are all in like marketing and we're using AI for marketing because like AI has such incredible results in science, in medicine, like that's where we should be using it. But marketers and brands are trying to like use it in a way that doesn't
To
make
be
sense.
honest, because of the transformer technology that is behind LLMs, actually all the investments in other applications of AI have lowered. So there was this guy, Lion Jones. So Lion Jones used to work at Google, and he's one of the people that came up with the transformer architecture in 2018 that is actually the modern LLM today. So he did this TED talk in San Francisco maybe like a few months ago, and he says that he regrets creating the transformer technology because all the money and all the investment goes into this, and it reached the local maxima of investment, and everything else like medicine,
Yeah.
robotics, it's under invested because of this specific architecture. And he said he wishes he never would have created it, which
I
is
love
crazy.
Mm.
two things about what you just said. One is I just felt like I got into like a Substack newsletter of yours, which was so fun. I read them religiously. And two, it sounds like
Sorry for you.
a Nobel Prize thing, you know, like, oh, I regret inventing this thing that will kill everyone.
Yes,
So there's
yes,
a Nobel
exactly. Yes.
Prize.
Yeah, it sounds like Oppenheimer all over.
Oppenheimer, yeah. I have
Yeah.
become the destroyer. Anyway, this is about another topic. So, Talia, thank you so much for coming back. Actually, this is perfect timing. Me and Simon were talking a bit in the intro about the fact that most people that, let's say you are a brand and you're doing a retargeting or remarketing campaign, and you're always ending up marketing to your existing customers. And the first instinct for the company is to blame the analytics team, the tool, and everything else because you're targeting the wrong people. However, and this is in an upcoming article of mine from my newsletter, I'm saying that in fact this is a business problem because nobody at the business level sat and thought, what is the minimum threshold for new? Is it new to the brand? Is it new to the company? Is it new to the buying relationship? What does new actually mean before we even try to track it, before we even try to quantifying it? So I know that you last time when we were talking, you were just preparing to launch your book, Emotional Targeting, and I know there's been a lot that happened since, and I know there's a lot changing in CRO because of course new versus existing is a very important notion for conversion optimization because you obviously are the one that are making this shit happen. So because everything is so crazy and then the customer journey is so multimodal, is so fragmented, it's nothing is really happening just on the website. What's going on in the CRO world? That's why we wanted to have you back. Like, what are we doing anymore?
It sounds like an existential crisis.
What is it?
CRO has definitely changed, and I don't think that enough people are adapting. So, as opposed to when, like, you know, we were just talking about AI and there was like this rush, everyone has to use AI, and every day there's new tools and new technology, and you have to use them or you're behind. And what are you even doing with your life if you're not there? That is kind of like the sense of urgency that wasn't as important, in my opinion, as what the real shift that is happening to so many companies, probably all of the companies, and no one's addressing this. No one's talking about it. Everyone is trying to just apply this new customer journey that's happening to old school marketing. So you can see it even in search when it comes to like AIO or GEO, whatever you want to call it. Everyone's trying to say like ranking in AI. I'm like, that's not a thing. But you're trying to apply it to what we knew about Google 20 years ago because that's what we know. So we're not adapting. And this is like a long way to say that CRO has always been about optimizing the assets that you control. So as you were saying, like you have traffic coming to your website or maybe your email list, and then you optimize your emails or you optimize your landing pages or you optimize the different pages on your website, whether you're B2B or e-commerce. But optimization no longer lives on the website alone. The entire customer journey has completely changed, and so has the role of your website. The website comes into the customer journey further down the line. I think in the past, people would like Google something and then they'd go to your website and they'd learn about you through the website. Now people learn about you off of the website, and that could be in AI, it could be on Reddit, it could be on LinkedIn, YouTube, Discord, whatever. Then they go to the website to verify that what they've learned about you is true and that like there's consistency, there's no breaks in that. And then they'll make the decision on whether to buy from you. It changes a little in B2B, and I can get into that, but that's more or less what's happening. And so if you as a brand aren't paying attention to where everyone is spending time and making a decision, like the entire buying decision, all of trust is off of your website. You can't just say, oh, we're trustworthy and people will believe you. Like everything's happening over here. So as an optimizer, if you want to drive more conversions, you have to be on this side. And like your website is here. So there's just, and everyone's spending time on the website, but they're not really thinking about the rest. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does.
Like, is this comparable to like the trend of just zero-click marketing in general? Like Google is purposefully driving traffic not away from the websites, but to keep them on their own property because they want to give the answers to that. And then there are things like the Universal Commerce Protocol where you don't even have to visit the random. You just ask the chat, like, what is the cheapest place to get a waterbed? Is that still a thing? No, it's not a thing. But I hope not. Don't buy waterbeds, but people, I think there were a lot of casualties from that. But, yeah, or lava lamps. But anyway, like that, it's crazy. Like when a brand that's big enough to show up in these has to really think about like, how do we differentiate? Like how do we put ourselves out there when people don't even visit our properties anymore? They just like, how do you promote your brand in that scenario? Like where do you show up?
You're also measuring the wrong stuff, right? Because you're so used to measuring things on the website. When there's zero-click marketing, there's no measurement. Like a lot of the stuff that you're doing is just happening and impacts everything that you do and impacts the decision at the end. And you will never know what led to it. I would say that the most important thing that you need to know right now, and I've been talking about this for years, so it's easy for me to like say emotional targeting, obviously. But I think now more than ever, understanding your customers and why they buy matters more than anything in marketing, no matter what. Like what's happening right now is this trend, and I get it. It's like the do more, right? More content, more ads, like, okay, more articles on our blog posts. Let's do more A/B tests, more experiments, more velocity, whatever. But that's actually ruining everything for you. Doing more is actually sabotaging your conversions. What you need to do is stop everything and start actually doing customer research, real customer research to how do your prospects make buying decisions? Going back to your original question, Juliana, where do people make decisions? How do they make the decision? Where are they in the buying decisions? Because not all customers are in the same place. Some are just trying to figure out, do they even need a solution to this problem? Are there any solutions to this problem? Do I need a tool? Should I hire an accountant? Do I need someone to consult me? Can I do it in a spreadsheet? People are in different various areas within the customer journey, but they're all on the web. They're all making those decisions. And if you don't stop right now, like everything that you're doing, and go back to the foundation of what do people feel? What are their pains? What are their concerns? What are they worried about? And you actually do that research, you're not going to be able to optimize anything at all. And the great thing about this, by the way, is that all that information is there. Like all you have to do is actually say, oh, I'm going to do this now, and you can do it. So that's, the good and the bad is that you have to stop everything, which is counterintuitive. But there's so much information out there that you can use to uncover that. And once you have that information, you can optimize everything, your social posts, your LinkedIn posts, the videos that you're creating, the articles that you're creating, podcasts that you go on to, and as a guest, everything can be optimized.
But reading between the lines, I like when I'm thinking about like where should my brand be? Like where do I go? Having just a website is absolutely not enough. Like you can't expect to just, because nobody visits, right?
No.
So you have to be social. You have to be proactive. You have to push your brand into different channels.
Yeah, but the thing is, Simo, your brand isn't just on the website. So
Exactly. Yeah.
already out there. There's no
Yep.
control. So whether you want it or not, it's one of these things I tell people to do is take 10 minutes out of your day today and research your brand without going to your website. You will be dumbfounded by how much information is out there on so many social platforms. Like you're not controlling the narrative. It's if you're not doing that, then so much information is out there. We were just talking to a client of ours last week that their B2B enterprise do not want to show pricing on their pricing page, like most enterprise. And I was like, guys, let me show you this live. And we went into ChatGPT and we went to Google, and their pricing is everywhere. Yep. But it's wrong. It's the wrong narrative. It's sold incorrectly. Yep. You could own that if you would just put the pricing on your page and write a full article or information about why it's priced that way, what the options are, and then you can own it. So it's not that you can't just own a website. It's that your brand is already being discussed or not, and that's another problem. But mostly your brand is already being discussed. Your competitors are being discussed everywhere, and you have to be there.
You have to control the narrative.
Yeah.
I will say, though, to gentle pushback and probing, gentle, because I love you, Talia. I would say that there is no more control over the brand perception anymore, because most people that show up to the website when they show up with a story that the brand has zero control of. They didn't author. So they build this perception based on people's experience with different things. Like, for instance, if I want to buy a new product, and I know this is not just me, I will go on Reddit, I will research what people experiences. Like, everything is so conversational, and I want to read stories. I don't want the search result. I want to know the process, the results off of it. I will watch a YouTube video. So I will go already to the website, as you said, and I like that a lot, to verify if the information that I gather so far is consistent. But I will say that there is not much to control as a brand in terms of narrative, because people will make up their own mind without that. But what I think is in the brand control is to be consistent, is to be informational, is to be intentional about how they want to be perceived. Like, for sure, there's still some degree that you can control for now with SEO, with optimization. But at some point, it will, like, the demand and the way people process and make decisions is gonna overcome our ability to drive the narrative. That's my perception. So I could be wrong.
No, you are right, but I will add a caveat to that. The hardest part is going to be, guys, you just have to have a good product. Like, if you don't have a good product or terrible service, then nothing you do is going to fix any narrative. It's just not going to work. And that's what's amazing, by the way, because now you can't hide behind like beautiful copy and say we're amazing, because no one knew what was going on for real. Now, if you have a shitty product, you're going to be found out in a minute. But if you have a good product and you have good customer service, you can control consistency and narrative by showing up wherever your customers are. And that means when someone complains about you, you go in and you comment and you actually pay attention and you help them. It means that when there's conversations on Reddit about your industry, about your competitors, about things that are bugging people, you're not just there commenting, here's my product, but you're having a real conversation with someone and trying to solve their problem. And at the end of the day, what's happening is that trust lives off the website. My favorite saying now is that people trust strangers more than brands. So if you're out there, people are going to start talking about you and mentioning, wow, I can't believe that this brand responded, or I can't believe that they helped me so quickly. Like, this sucked, but it got solved. So controlling the narrative doesn't mean that like you're going through every line that's ever been written about you on any blog post, or going to podcasters and saying like, hey, you said something wrong about me, correct that. It's more about showing up authentically in places and actually acknowledging the fact that people are in control and not you. And emotion is always going to drive that. always. So you just have to show up in a way that's meaningful to them and be the brand that people connect to. Simo, you were just saying like, oh, maybe there will be like a this little brand that says like human, created by a human. People are craving human connection. There is a reason why Threads is blowing up. There's a reason why a lot of these things, because people are looking for like small communities to feel connected to people, because everything feels so disconnected and fragmented. So I think that as a brand, that should be your entire strategy. Showing up, being relatable, actually speaking the real words that your customers speak, and not trying to be this whatever, boring brand. And it has to happen everywhere, not just in B2C where it sounds easy, but in B2B, wow, they have so much to catch up on.
Yeah. I like Aura. Aura does a really good job with that on Reddit. Like there's a lot of issues with the ring, unfortunately, but their Aura community on Reddit is always a customer support from their team. So if somebody, let's say, has issues with the battery or has issues with the subscription or something, people generally come and give a solution or show up with next steps. Sometimes they're being trolled by the Reddit community because Reddit is gonna be Reddit.
Yeah.
But I do see them present quite a lot. Probably one of the brands that I've seen the most on Reddit would be Aura, but they're Finnish people, so they're more responsible, I would say.
Well, but like the whole holy grail that you want is that you want to have a product and a service that has such a loyal customer base that they'll do the work for you. They're
Yes.
the ones who go to the support forums. Hey, I have an Aura Ring too, and this is how I fixed it. And this is entirely Google shtick. Like their engineers don't populate those places. They used to, but they don't anymore. But it's their customers who come in, like their trusted partners and so on, who come in and swoop in and do the work for them. And that's amazing. Like if you have a product or a brand with such a loyal customer base that they will help you like stay afloat in all those different places where you don't have the resources. And if you don't have that, then you need to kind of figure out an incentive model, how to get your user base to evangelize on behalf of yourself and be your ambassadors. Because like everything you said, Talia, makes a lot of sense, but it's like it's Mount Everest for small companies who can barely just struggle with their current workload. Now they have to start going to Reddit and to Product Hunt and wherever and try to join the conversations. Sometimes they're lucky and they have people who have been doing this organically for years, like who have been in the forums, and then they came up with a product and now they can link the two together. But if you have to start from scratch, like how would you even go about it? Like if you've never been to any of those, how do you swoop in without being obviously a product shill in those places?
I actually think that smaller brands will have an easier time doing this, because when you're a huge brand, there's so many hoops you have to jump through, and there's so many brand guidelines and positioning docs that tell you what you can and what you can't say. But when you're a smaller brand that's just getting started and you're going against, the Goliaths, it's actually a lot easier to start small. And I think I understand what you're saying, because it sounds like, oh, I have to be everywhere all the time, but you don't actually. What you need to do is identify one or two spaces that your prospects hang out in. So you don't have to be just on Reddit or but choosing one space that that people are hanging out that are your prospects. That's where I would start small by just showing up. And I wouldn't even participate in conversations at first. The first thing I would do is research, actually comb through conversations, read through the threads, start analyzing what people are saying, and use that to start optimizing my own social posts, my own emails, my landing pages, my product pages. I'm starting to use their jargon. I'm starting to describe their pains the way they describe them. I'm starting to describe the outcomes that they care about on my website. Then you can start saying, okay, I want to create new content. I'm going to go and create YouTube videos as a brand. Let me go into Reddit where my customers are hanging out or my prospects are hanging out, where people who are buying from my competitor, but I want them to buy from me. Let's find out what they care about. And I can create a series of videos just about that. So you can start by just optimizing the things that you control. And then when you feel that you have more of that confidence because you've learned enough about your customers and you understand what really pains them, you can start answering people. You can start actually replying to people. You can start creating events, maybe webinars or in-person events, or you can create small campaigns that are deliberately, specifically for your customers. And I think that's where it needs to be. It's not that now you need to go into every single Twitter and X and Blue Sky and Freds and like all the other bazillion ones and start trying to do everything. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to work. And I also want to say, being everywhere, optimizing everywhere doesn't mean you now participating in conversations about, Taylor Swift getting engaged or heated rivalry, because that's what everyone's doing. I think there's like a confusion between like, I want to sound cool and actually doing the work. So it sounds alarming, but I actually think like this is work you should be doing anyway.
Exactly.
Like that should be the basis of everything in marketing. You should not be allowed to write a single ad, a single email, a single page without doing that research. And no one does it because everyone's focused on data and points and like metrics and putting our customers in these segments of behavioral data of age and geographical location and gender. And we're so tactical. And it drives me nuts that like there's no guys, you need to go back to like the 50s when they used to do
direct marketing.
Like real, like bringing the offline to the online, the old offline agencies that understood that it was all about emotion and people and solving problems, but bring it into the online.
I will say that the reason why I think it's like how it is because of the obsession with platforms and with advertising. It's basically it. But I have one final question for you before we wrap up. I know that you and Sunny from No Hacks have built this tool called Emotional Grader. You want to tell us more about how can we test that? How can people test it?
It's currently in beta. Yes. So it's actually a set of tools. This is the first one. The idea is to give people the power to analyze their assets and understand the emotional resonance that they have. So the emotional grader is basically a tool that allows you to copy and paste in copy that you use, or just put in a URL for your website, for your competitors, for an ad that you've created, anything. And it tells you what are the top 3 emotions that you are creating or triggering right now. And that will help you on two things. A, it will tell you how to double down on them if you want to, and how to go even deeper, or give you ideas for research that you can conduct. And 2, it will help you see if this is the right emotions, because sometimes we write things, we think they're the right thing, but if you've done your research, you'll see that you're triggering wrong emotions or you're not resonating on an emotional level. So the grader really is to just help you understand what is your current state, what are you currently doing, and how you can do it better. And we'll have multiple tools coming out to help you really optimize your copy, but do better research into emotions and understanding why people buy.
That's really cool. Is there a link maybe that people can sign up for the beta?
Yes, I will send it to you. I don't have it on me. I think it's emotionaltargeting.com, obviously.
That's good that you remember it. I think that's like the step 1 in going out to the communities is to remember your product.
But that's awesome.
Step 2, profit.
That's great.
It's a free tool, but yes, absolutely.
Well, awesome. Well, I'll make sure to link it into the episode notes and also with your LinkedIn and your book. And I think people should definitely read your book and maybe kind of like, as you said, take a bit of a step back and not try to look, Simo's already like, I won't bring back the drum because I'm afraid I'm going to ruin the recording.
No.
No more drums. But again, thank you so much for returning. It was so nice to talk to you today. And I'm glad we made it happen.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and I'm excited to come back to your podcast.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next
good.
time when you're here for the 3rd time, maybe my single line in the readme.md has finally gone through the Claude API, because I refuse to write it manually.
The issue has been identified and a fix is being implemented. So you see,
anybody can write that. Like until the fix is that's what Trump would say.
But not you. You cannot write.
I'm going to invite you to my own podcast. It's called Heart Before Cart, and we're going to talk about that specifically.
I love it. I'm looking forward to it. I will send my butt in my stead.
You should do that. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you, Talia.
See you guys. Yeah, see you guys next time.
Yep, take care.